Hey, this is Bryan.
And Shelby.
And you're listening to the Hyperspace
Pod Blast. Aren't you a little short for a podcast?
Huh?
Hold your horses, Star Wars.
We're slowing her down here, folks. We're slowing her down.
No. Okay,
No.
please be done.
Star Wars be done or me?
No. I mean, yes. You.
Okay, yeah. So, according to the man at the tippy top of the Disney juggernaut,
Mickey Mouse?
yes, Mickey Iger, mouseman.com.
Can you stop with the .coms?
No.
All right.
This is quoted from a very non-biased article from CNNMoney. So I don't think they really care about Star
Yay
Wars.
for sources that are not
Yeah.
Star Wars news.
I don't think they have a lean, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, you can expect some slowdown, but that doesn't mean we're not going to make films. I think we're going to be a little bit more careful about volume and timing. So what do you think this means as far as the future of Star Wars films after the release of Episode 9? Obviously, I don't think they're going to come out and say, hey, we know you've been looking forward to the closure of this sequel trilogy, but we think we've been doing too many movies. We're just going to move that to 2020. Sorry.
Okay,
everybody.
hold on a second. First of all, let's say, welcome back to Hyperspace Pod Blast, guys.
Oh, whatever. They know what they're doing.
I mean, they might be new.
Nah, no one listens to this show.
Oh my gosh. Yes, they do. So if you're new, this is a 30-minute or less Star Wars podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And we're brief and to the point. So since I've said enough about that,
Much.
It's probably too much. Let's move on to the actual topic that we just dug into.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think this is a good move. And I know you just said that CNNMoney doesn't have a lean, but yes, it does. It's for companies to do what companies do and make money.
Right. I
It's
meant
talking
they
about-
don't have like a
Well, no, I know.
pro-con, the
I know
Last
exactly.
Jedi ruined Star Wars.
But what I'm
lean.
trying to get at, is that lean is a good perspective in the sense of it's looking at Disney not as entertainment and this steward of your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking at Disney as the powerhouse juggernaut it is and how it's supposed to make returns on investment.
Right. How Bob Iger can keep swimming in money like Scrooge McDuck.
Yes.
Yes. And based on that, what do you think?
I think this is good.
Yeah, I think this
And
is
I
good
mean,
on all
I'm pretty sure
fronts,
a
personally.
lot of people, not just us, but we definitely have been saying this for a while, that it seems like a lot. And just, we talk about a lot of times how we as fans accept that there's just more than you can actually consume.
Without it being a job, honestly.
I mean, if you were going to be like, I'm going to cover everything about this one part of Star Wars, even if you just went to like comics.
If you're
That's
just
ridiculous.
whittled it down. Yeah.
Yeah, even if you're narrowing it down to just comics or just books or just, I mean, frankly, the only thing that you can narrow it down to and it be manageable is movies.
Yeah. And I mean,
and maybe TV shows.
I think just movies is what they're really banking the franchise on. Everything else is for the people like us.
Everything else is where they can be creative and fun and kind of spur the magic and also get a couple extra bucks. It's the babysitting money on the side. It's them driving Uber.
The EU is their Uber, their
Right.
side hustle.
It's the side hustle. But
Yeah. I mean, it's for
the
people
9
like
to 5,
us.
the 9 to 5 is the movie.
Yeah. For every new person that's never read a Star Wars book that picks one up, that's just like a little extra cha-ching. Honestly, how much input do you think Bob Iger has on anything outside of the films? Do you think he even looks at reels for the animations?
No.
Maybe when they're finished. And he's like, okay, that's fine.
I think he has
I didn't hate that. That's fine.
He has. I have a feeling he has zero impact on creative direction of really anything. He doesn't have time for that kind of stuff.
Maybe not.
From
but
a,
I mean,
from
just
a
as far
business
as
perspective, he's
Yeah.
concerned with releases, overall strategy on how you're releasing any sort of content for any of the IPs,
Right, exactly. He's got a lot more on his plate than
It's
just Star Wars.
way more high level than you really
Star
think.
Wars is just like the peas, you know what I mean? He's got that MCU mashed potatoes and then the actual Disney meat. So yeah, he's got a lot going on.
Yeah, Disney and like Marvel are equivalent to different markets that another CEO may be looking at. They're the big money makers and the big major capital projects.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has to have some sort of input on what are our strategies behind how to really make money from these.
Right. Do you think he can name a Star Wars book?
No.
Me neither. He's probably like, we have Star Wars books? How much money does that make? Maybe not. I don't know. I just can't see him micromanaging down to that point.
I can't see him having the time to do that.
Or the care, because that's got to be like, not even peanuts, like the crumpled up shell of a peanut that an elephant stepped on. That's what the EU is to the big picture of Disney. Mm-hmm. Honestly, to the big picture of Star Wars, if you think about money. Like, if Star Wars books made $1 million ever, I wonder, like, from the beginning to now, has Star Wars books made $1 million?
I mean, all books combined.
Yeah, I'm talking about, like, Legends to, like, everything.
I mean, there's a maybe for that. There's a maybe
It's possible, yeah, but
I also would not be surprised if they had not.
You know, and then the failure movie Solo made $400 million, so by comparison.
But you have to ask, how much did they spend to make it?
Right, yeah, I'm sure there's still profit margins
make?
and all that, but still.
Yeah, and what they were projecting, and I mean, it all comes back to how much were they actually expecting to get out of this movie, because we're not seeing what their projections were.
I think
a lot more.
Yeah, I think unfortunately Solo did bomb, but we'll talk about that a little later. But as far as the future of Star Wars movie releases, I think, like you said, this is a good thing. I think, I don't know, can you have too much of a good thing? Yes. And I think maybe we do, or did. Not going to anymore. But moving away from that, do you think any of the talent they've already tapped for upcoming projects will bail if said projects get pushed back?
I mean, it's only if they get involved in something bigger and better.
Well, that's what
in between.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about. Like, they have their time, set aside for these things, and they're like, oh, we're not going to do that right away. Well, they're not going to sit and wait. Something else comes up, and then they get tapped again.
They probably
like,
can't bail, though. They probably signed something that means that they can't.
Well, yeah, but this may, if they change the deal, that might change their contract.
That's true. I don't know. I have a feeling that those people, especially the ones that, I don't want to say like the ones that matter, but the ones that it's really critical that they're the same person, are not going to leave.
Well, I just hope we don't run into that thing where we have trilogies set aside for certain creators. Like we've said before, that we like the idea of the whole story arc being told by at least one consistent...
A consistent voice.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's always like, oh, well, someone was the...
Right, I mean...
supporting or...
Blah, 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 whatever. There's still an overseer. That's what we're
someone who's the overseer and has the final say.
Well, do you think this could be one of those things where they push it back and they say, well, I can do the first one now, but I'm going to be busy. I can't really finish this. And do you think we'll get another one of those situations where they just bring whomever in and then... this doesn't work, so we're cutting you, blah, 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 blah.
Honestly, I can see Disney just filming it all in one go and releasing them.
See, now I'd like do it Lord of the Rings style. Mm-hmm. I think that could be cool.
I think
depending on how the narrative goes.
I have a feeling they might end up doing that if they're going to. I think they just didn't have a strategy with Star Wars. They bought it and they were just like, I think they were like, throw it out there.
We're gonna make money, and they did until they didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, they still did, but again.
Yeah, I really don't think Solo made money. I didn't look it up to see, but I'm pretty sure that it's a red project.
I wonder if they are going to push for these new trilogies coming up, since they know they're committing to that. They may push for like a Lord of the Rings style, just shoot it all.
That'd be cool. Like I said, it all really depends on the narrative. Like if they have the whole thing, which I would assume they do, especially if they're going to push it back and they have more time.
And especially if it's non-saga and you're saying it's going to specifically be 3 films, you have to have a plan for 3 films.
Yeah, that's true. I would think. But, just like anything else, even if you have a plan as you write, the story changes, but still, who knows? Do you think a slower burn is more or less enticing for potential other Star Wars creatives to come in?
I think it's more enticing because you get the build-up. And I mean, it allows your fans to really be invested. Because Because sometimes if you just keep throwing stuff at them, they're not going to... It's like, well, I guess I didn't like it. Guess I'm going to go see the new one in 4 months.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very throw it against the wall and see what sticks sort of mentality, which is not conducive to good stuff, I don't think.
I think people will stick around, and I think people will be interested in doing it because also Star Wars.
Well, yeah, there's Star Wars, but do you think maybe if they say they're going to slow down, we're going to take our time, we're going to do this like more, I don't want to say lackadaisically, but in a more...
Paced. It's a good paced.
A less frantic pace, for sure. I think that could have a positive impact on people wanting to come to it, and less of this whole director shuffle that we've been having.
And also, there's not the pressure of having to write something as quickly as possible.
Right, that's what I'm saying, yeah. It's giving people more freedom, which is hopefully opens it up to more interest from other people. But who knows? That's all very hypothetical.
Do you think this is going to have an impact on non-cinematic Star Wars projects?
I think definitely it will. I think it'll be a trickle down, but I don't know how it'll affect. Like, will it raise up the EU stuff to make it more important, since that's kind of the highlight for maybe, who knows what we're going to have. It might be 2 years, 3 years after Episode 9 before we get another Star Wars movie. So if that's the case, things like the live action show, if that's not getting pushed back also, and Resistance and books and comics, that stuff's really going to have time to shine or to really dull. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really what's going to come down to is it'll either lift it up if they allow them to do things that progress the story, because I feel like a lot of things were kind of hampered because it's like, no, we're saving this for the movies.
Right.
And if they allow them to have that forward progression and have big, impactful things happen in them, then yes, they will shine. Otherwise, there's a potential that they're really just going to be filler. Sorry, I said the F word.
I already think half of it's filler anyway, so I mean, you can say it all you want.
But I also think it's going to have more people interested in it because there's not...
Right, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You could bring people to it, especially the stuff on television.
And when they launch the Disney streaming service.
Right, which that's going to be touch and go anyway, I think, just because all these different services are going to start wearing people thin. They're going to have to decide.
Well, I think what's going to end up happening is that all the services are going to get a lot cheaper and everyone's going to have their own, and you're essentially building your own cable package by, like...
picking and choosing.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be one of those things, too, where people are like, I'm going to pay for HBO Go while Game of Thrones is on, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to pick up Netflix so I can watch Stranger Things. Then I'm going to go get the Disney one so I can watch Star Wars. Then I'm going to hit Hulu for Handmaid's Tale. You know what I mean? It's going to be like a pick 'em up, drop 'em, mix around.
And it's going to be like, okay, you buy Hulu.
Yeah, exactly.
Netflix.
We'll save the password. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. No, listen to that. We didn't just say that.
We don't do that.
We'll buy them all and pay full price every time. No pirates. Arr. Anyway. Yeah, I really think that it has the potential not only to make Star Wars less of a saturated thing, but to make, like you said, to give them the opportunity to do things in the EU that matter. Because, sure, some of the EU is cool and really interesting.
And it matters in the sense of its own
well, it matters
story.
To itself,
yeah.
exactly, which is not a bad thing. But honestly, I think part of the bad thing is when they try to involve the current narratives.
But not actually do anything with it.
Well, yeah, it's because you can't. Like, what happens? Oh, Luke Skywalker's fine in this thing that happened between episodes 4 and 5, you don't say.
Yeah.
Oh, Darth Vader didn't die? Weird. It's just like that, where Han pulls Chewie to safety in Solo. Like,
yeah.
I'm on pins and needles. Will he make it? Yes, obviously. That's not as bad. That's kind of just like a neat little in the movie moment. But a lot of that stuff seems to be more of not what's going to happen, how are they going to get out of this? Because I already know they're fine, whatever. So it'll be interesting to have new characters like they did with Rebels. They did a really good job with that. And then I think they stumbled when they started involving the larger galaxy with that show, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people really like how every Star Wars character knows. It's like 6 degrees of separation between all Star Wars characters. But anyway, enough grumpy Bryan stuff.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, so now we're going to move into the controversial stuff.
Oh, perfect.
I know, right? So do you think the polarizing, visceral reaction to The Last Jedi had any effect on this decision? Yes or no? Go.
No.
Yeah, no, me neither. I don't think they care about that at all. They're just
You know
looking
what they
at
care
numbers.
about? How much money did it make?
Exactly. I think, honestly, this is a not necessarily knee-jerk reaction to Solo, but this is an admission that they made a mistake. Solo should not have come out in May.
You know, I don't even think it's the release date, to be completely
Really?
honest.
Jeez, I do, like by a million.
I mean, I do, but I also don't. I think it's the release date because they couldn't come up with, and it feels like they didn't even really try with the advertising campaign.
Well, yeah,
I felt like it never got the hype it deserved.
No.
And it might have been just because there was no time between The Last Jedi and then, but also, like, it felt like they didn't even try. But maybe it's because they were like, oh, let's not advertise Solo so we don't jeopardize The Last Jedi.
They were trying to juggle this stuff when there was no point.
The fact that there was no trailer for Solo at The Last Jedi was just, in my opinion, a terrible decision. Again, I'm not a I don't have any professional qualification to stand on for that.
Right, but I'm with you. I don't see why they didn't try to daisy chain that stuff. Oh, you want to see The Last Jedi?
Guess what else is coming out in just a couple months?
But by that same token, I mean, they didn't know ahead of time how polarizing The Last Jedi would be. But do you think that would have soured people even further on Solo? Because they're, they're leaving the theater in that I hate Star Wars mode.
I don't know. I think it would have made it better because it's like, I didn't like this one, but this next one's coming out soon. There's some people probably didn't know Solo was coming out that went and saw The Last Jedi, and I think that would have helped those people.
Maybe.
I don't think it would have made people more upset about Solo. I think they might have said, that was not good, or that wasn't for me, but then say, that Solo trailer really got me excited.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that's going to be more my style and more my, I don't know.
My jam.
My jam, especially with all the nostalgia.
My wheelhouse. That's true, yeah. Honestly, Solo was the perfect post-Last Jedi movie for people that hated The Last Jedi, but I don't think very many of them went to see it, unfortunately. It seems like that's the answer to most of what people hated about The Last Jedi, in my opinion.
What did they hate?
Basically everything.
Oh.
But no, just the whole idea that, like, this is not my Star Wars. This is not my Luke Skywalker. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? If you watch Solo, you're like, hey, that's Han Solo being Han Solo.
Why do you think... Yep.
And
Lando being Lando.
Right? It's just like super, these are the characters you expect them to be.
You like Maul? Here, we'll give you Maul.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, sorry, I had to just twist the knife a little bit. Why do you think...
Here's a lightsaber. Why? Because it's a lightsaber.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
The Last Jedi, I mean, like, first of all, I don't think it was not a happy ending.
Oh, it's nothing but it just hits that hope over the head with a hammer like Star Wars does lately.
And I mean, here's the thing. It wasn't a happy ending, but it also wasn't a sad ending either.
It was an upturn, I think.
I think it was an upturn, but some people probably took it as the hero didn't win.
Nobody won in that movie, honestly.
But, okay, so you have the Last Jedi reaction where a large group of people did not like it, and I think that's part of it. How do you think that compares to the reaction to Infinity War ending?
Well, I don't think Infinity War ruined anybody's childhood. I mean, it made a lot of people sad, but I think at the end, everyone knows they're all coming back somehow.
Right, you can't...
But you can't take back the way Luke reacted to things. You know what I mean? Like, even if they're mad it's not just they're mad that Luke died. They're mad at the way Luke was written. And that can't be taken back. I mean, it could, but it would be terrible. Like, it'd be like that whole idea we talked about a couple of episodes ago where they just turn it all into a dream and start it back over at the end of Return of the Jedi.
I think that Ezra should pull Luke out.
There you go. Right before he disappears.
No. Before he raises his lightsaber to...
Oh, yeah. Hey,
to
just tap him on the shoulder.
Hey, man, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, why aren't we in charge of Star Wars again? I don't know. Bob, hit us up.
So, moving on.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you think we'd be having this conversation right now if Solo was due to release in December instead of having been released in May?
Not at all. I don't think they'd talk about a Star Wars slowdown with a movie this close. Even if they were already thinking it. They would not put any negative anything in the air if a Star Wars movie was coming out in roughly 3 months. But considering you have over a year before the next one, and then an undetermined future after that, there's nothing really wrong with saying, yeah, we're going to slow down. We're going to slow down the bus.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, first of all, I don't think this would be in mind had Solo not been out yet and they had not seen the poor results, because that's what I think all of this stems on.
I agree.
I don't think The Last Jedi has anything to do with it, because it made its money. It made people mad.
It was the timing. It was just the timing
and
of
Solo. The thing you can't ascertain is, were people still upset with Star Wars so they didn't go watch Solo? That had they had the time to cool off, would they have gone in December?
I think for some people that's it, but I think really it's they didn't advertise it the way that it should have been. Well, it didn't get the hype train. It didn't get the build-up.
Even though it had a literal train in it.
It did have a literal train, but it was not the hype train.
No.
It was the Star Wars machine train that's just speeding down the rails.
Exactly.
And
the nonstop train to, we'll take your money, Vil.
Yeah.
And it fell off, just like in the movie.
Yep.
Boom.
It's been a ride, babe.
Yeah. That would have been pretty hilarious if Bob Iger had said that. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate because it's all hypothetical at this point. You can't take it back. You can't put Solo back. It'd be cool, actually, if they did just low-key put Solo back in theaters in December. I would go watch it again.
I would, too.
That would be very cool. It'd be funny if it made the exact same amount of money.
You know, there's also this concept in my head that people needed to go see The Last Jedi multiple times because they were like, I don't know if I liked it. So there's almost that element of probably why it did so well in ticket sales.
Versus, well, yeah, I mean,
Solo, you see Solo, that was a fun movie. I had fun seeing it more than once, but also I don't think the regular moviegoer or even...
Right, there's nothing that draws you back in that you really are like, unless you're just thinking to yourself, that was fun, I want to go have fun again. You're not like, I need to process this. It's pretty straightforward film.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's even not a Star Wars story thing, because yes, Rogue One made less money than The Force Awakens, but you can't compare things to The Force Awakens. That is the Star Wars back anomaly.
And
it's going to be the top tier probably, unless they do a really long, like 5+ year wait after 9. Then that movie might have the chance to beat The Force Awakens, but I doubt it.
Well, here's my thing, too, is that Rogue One was the first spin-off movie, the first non-saga movie.
Mm-hmm.
People are just frankly very interested to see, well, what's that gonna be? And, it was just a better movie, period.
Yeah, well, and it did,
and it was more
it touched on that.
And it was just... I don't know. It was one of those, it was the second movie to come out after the long Star Wars break, so... It
was definitely not a sophomore slump, and it touched on that nostalgia again, which is something that The Force Awakens just vomited all over. The nostalgia OD. But anyway, yeah, that's where The Last Jedi was really not very nostalgic at all, because everything was different than what people expected, and that is not how nostalgia works. So, yeah, I don't know. But I don't think you can blame it on Star Wars stories, because there were several people that didn't like Rogue One, and it did really well. But I don't remember hearing hardly anyone say anything negative about Solo.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed to be universally well accepted, except people just didn't go to it. So.
And you go back to, what was it competing with in theaters?
Well, yeah, Infinity War was out around that time.
It was just a rough...
I can't really remember what else was out, but yeah, I don't know. It was a mistake, I think, period.
Yeah, I think you just didn't have enough time to marinate and get excited for it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this respite.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think the slowdown is not a bad thing at all. I think some people will say it is. And then inevitably, if it hasn't happened already, I don't know. I barely really check social media and all that nonsense anymore. But I'm sure the remake episode 8 or whatever they're calling themselves.
We did it!
Yeah, this is another victory for them. They made Solo Tank, and then they made this happen. Pretty soon, they're going to actually remake episode 8, and everyone will just be so happy.
Can you imagine what we could accomplish in the world if people didn't spend all their energy, like, towards that kind of stuff?
Hating things for, like, yeah, that kind of passion for hate is sad, honestly.
Yes.
And, like, they actually raise money. Like,
there are so many,
what
like,
are you doing?
good charities that you could give that money
Or me.
to.
You could give that money to me. And I would tell you.
Or you could buy some
that
Legends books so that you
right.
could read the Luke Skywalker you love.
True. Mm-hmm. Or they could give it to me.
Which, by the way, if you're looking to get into Legends books, you should check out
Ooh.
Outer Rim Reviews.
True.
With our friend Sophie. She does such a great job. Her Instagram is lovely. I always love her book picks, and her reviews are great.
Yes. And if you want to listen to a Legends book, www.audibletrial.com/hyperspace. Free audiobook, 30-day subscription to Audible, which is the bee's knees, if I do say so myself.
And if you haven't done so already, we would love to hear from you on iTunes reviews. So drop some stars over there and let us know what you think of the podcast.
And the various other places that are in the show notes.
Yes.
So I think that'll do, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
we'll
call
talk
it
to you
quits.
later. I think we're going to slow down.
We're going to slow
down. My God.
Not like that, though.
You can always find us on Twitter at hyperspace_pod.
You can email us at hyperspacepodblast@gmail.com.
And check out our content on hyperspacepodblast.com.
Yeah, buddy.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.